Welcome to Sensory Chronicles. As I mentioned in the previous episodes, I work with kids with atypical development, and this is a conclusion I came to over the years. I strongly believe that there are no lazy, spoiled, or naughty children when we consider behaviors that we typically describe using these labels. Usually, these are the behaviors that do not align with our expectations in a given situation, and I think there's always a really good reason why children exhibit them. Commonly, kids get these labels from adults who are close to them: parents, grandparents, preschool teachers, nannies, and so on. So let's get into why kids get these labels and what is behind them. Number 1, so-called lazy kids. So you commonly see a child on the couch, not wanting to do anything, no matter how good your ideas or bribes are. They can't seem to get into the mood for any sort of activity or play. They don't seem to be motivated for anything, but they're not necessarily in a bad mood either. Well, there's something called arousal. It's our brain's ability to maintain our alertness level that a specific situation or task demand from us. Kids who are sensory underreactive may show these kinds of behaviors. They will need more input or change in the intensity or rhythm of the input to become more alert, motivated, and ready for some activity. So keep that in mind. Number 2, so-called spoiled kids. I've heard this one a lot for kids who have certain food preferences and are having a hard time adjusting to non-preferred items, or kids who want to have everything go their way, or kids who throw a tantrum because they want yet another ice cream before dinner or a toy from the supermarket. Also, kids who want to be carried a lot. They all have one thing in common: difficulties with sensory processing and regulation. That child who had certain feeding preferences might be sensitive to textures, smells, tastes, temperature of food, and so on. For example, when presented with mushy foods, they might have a gag. Or the other child we mentioned who wants to be carried a lot might have a low muscle tone or low arousal level, and that's why that child doesn't want to walk. And about the kids who will have strong negative reactions when they don't get what they wanted, we should ask ourselves, why is their reaction so strong? What's the cause of this lower ability to regulate? Have they been given that toy in the supermarket once before, or every time before this one? And now, as adults, we decided that they'll not get it anymore? Did we change their routine and expectations? And what exactly did we, as adults, do to provide this child with control, prediction, and understanding of what will happen? Also, consider this common parenting situation. How many times have we said no to the child, but we kind of did whatever that thing is anyway? Aside from a child having difficulties regulating to this new set of rules, or because he or she was forbidden to do something, now they also need to be okay with the uncertainty in our decisions. So once it's a yes, and then all of a sudden the same thing is a no at some other time. So we should be more aware of our reactions towards our kids more. That means we should pay attention to what we do on a daily basis and what we passively teach the child. If the child asked us 4 times for ice cream or a toy, and we said no 4 times, then the child started crying a little bit harder, and we said, all right, I'll give it to you. Then the situation is quite clear, right? Crying a bit harder worked. That's the tool I acquired, and I'll surely use it, and we'll start from that point, the stronger point, right? Which worked the best. And this is something we taught the child. So next time when we want to label a child as spoiled, let's dig a little bit deeper and see what is behind this behavior. All right. Number 3, so-called naughty kids. There are some behaviors that kids exhibit which could be labeled as naughty by the people around. So if a child runs around and can't stop when we ask them to, we should ask ourselves why. What is causing him or her not to be able to regulate, calm down as easily as other kids, or organize their behavior in a more goal-oriented way? A common example from daycares is, for example, if a child is pushing or biting other kids in the group. Among other things, let's consider his or her proprioceptive and tactile needs or defensiveness, as well as other reasons for these certain behaviors. Or another example, this one from school. If a child is inattentive in school, shows continuing fidgeting, restlessness, changes in posture, or asks to go out, from the classroom, involves others into conversations during class, which is, frowned upon. Again, before we label a child as naughty, inattentive, impatient, and makes trouble during the class, let's ask ourselves, why is this child exhibiting these behaviors? What is his body movement telling me? And consider his or her arousal levels, proprioception, and other senses. And let's also think about their abilities to concentrate to the teacher when all they can think about is movement or whatever else to keep their arousal levels high up towards the optimum. All right. Have you encountered these behaviors in the children you work with or care for? Share your experiences and insights with me. I'd love to continue this discussion. And if you found this episode helpful, please consider sharing it with your friends or colleagues. And don't forget to subscribe to stay updated on future episodes. Thank you so much for joining me today on Sensory Chronicles.